Hello, this is Alex Ramsey, host of Night of the Batman, with one movie that I really, really love, and that I'll give Batman and Robin one compliment. Without the failure that is that movie, we would not have Batman Begins now. That's right, I'm reviewing one of my favorite movies, Batman related of all time, Batman Begins. Let's just start out with my thoughts, and I do have a lot. It's amazing. Number one, I've heard other people point out that this is not only a good superhero movie, it's a good movie in general. It delves into Bruce Wayne's past, which, let's be honest, in past, at least in TV and movies, hasn't really been done all that much, hasn't gone really that deep into. I mean, there's been brief glimpses of his past, but not really in depth, like how he got from point A to point B, of being wanting to be Batman and then becoming him. This movie is amazing. It's realistic. It's just a great movie. It pulls from different comic book arcs. Christopher Nolan has mentioned, when people ask him what his inspirations are, he mentioned one story I still, unfortunately, have not read, called Batman, The Man Who Falls, which I hear heavily influences certain parts of it. Also, obviously Batman Year One, which one of the things that's really interesting is how Commissioner Gordon looks in this. He's young. He's not the goofy old man that he was in the Burton/Schumacher movies. He's a pivotal role. He plays a pivotal part. He helps Batman in this. He's not just a guy that tells Batman, hey, we got this, could you handle it, or something. He actually is involved with it, which I like. He actually looked exactly like, almost spot on, like how Commissioner Gordon looks in his younger years in Batman Year One, which I thought was really amazing how they were able to do that with the movie. There's also certain parts in Batman Begins that are similar to parts in Batman Year One. Like, people forget this, but some people say that Commissioner Loeb, the character in there, was made in Batman Begins. He wasn't really. They got that character from Batman Year One. And also just how they pull other things, like how corrupt the city is. That's a huge part of Batman Year One. That it mainly, like, almost pulled exactly from that is the bat scene, the scene where he calls all the bats with the sonar. That is an exact scene from Batman Year One that they use. It's almost, it's not, I don't want to say frame for frame, but it's really close to how it is in the book, which I thought was amazing when I saw it. Yeah, and also some of the characters in this are amazing. They're layered, they're three-dimensional. They're not like the Burton/Schumacher movies where they're very comic booky, one-dimensional. They feel like real people in this. You feel like Bruce Wayne is more than just a comic book character. You feel like he's a real living, breathing person, which I thought was really cool. Other characters too, villains, they're not just the silly comic book villains we got in the last few movies. They're real, they have motivations, and some of them, like Ra's or Ra's al Ghul in this, you can actually sort of see where they're coming from, which is kind of scary and a good thing too. It means you've written a good villain. Yeah, this movie I hadn't seen until later on. I don't know why. I really like it though. It's an amazing movie. It's really good. Yeah, just how they were able to pull certain things from the comics and put them into the movie and make it work is amazing. People forget this, and some people complain about the Tumbler, but actually the Tumbler is sort of similar in a lot of ways to, if you ever read The Dark Knight Rises, the tank that Batman drives, and that story is very similar to how the Tumbler looks. And also just how good this is, how just intricate and amazing and deep this movie is compared to the other ones, is just fascinating to me. I could go on and on all day about this, but one more thing before I actually go on to the summary. Rachel Dawes was originally, her character was originally sort of kind of based on Harvey Dent. I don't know why they didn't do Harvey Dent in the first movie, but yeah, I'm glad they saved him for the second one. But yeah, I found that fascinating too, that they were able to do all this stuff. It's just amazing, and it's also inspired me too with the Crusader series to have that dark, sort of realistic tone. And a lot of people, I feel, have started mimicking this, and this is my problem with that. The dark, realistic tone works with Batman because he's a real guy. It doesn't work as much with, I don't know, I haven't seen the movie, but Superman. Superman's supposed to be light and a good guy. It's not supposed to be dark. There can be dark moments, but it's not supposed to be a dark movie because they're polar opposites. Also, I like the movie Amazing Spider-Man, but really, he didn't really need to be like The Dark Knight. I think that was more the studio saying, oh, they got something dark, we need to make something dark, sort of thing. So I guess that's one thing you can hold against it, but it's not really a complaint. I mean, it's not their fault that other people started ripping off that and not sticking closer to the comics like they should have, but hey, that's another talk for another review. So yeah, I guess I'll go on next to the summary. Now for the summary. Let me just start out from the beginning. So it starts out with Bruce Wayne as a young boy, and he falls into a uncovered well. Actually, it was a covered well. He just stepped over it. Him and Rachel, his childhood friend, are playing hide and go seek, and he falls in and gets attacked by bats. And later on, his father saves him and says a line that comes up many times and is a running theme in there. He asks him, "Why do we fall?" And then later on, it's revealed he said, "So we can learn to pick ourselves back up again." And it goes from there. It introduces us to the parents, which I really like, but I'll get more of that in the cons. The pros, not the cons. Anyway, after that, it shows more of his early life when he was a kid, and eventually his it shows that nightmare. Sorry, I'm sorry, I'm messing up. It shows that as a nightmare. He wakes up, he's in a prison with a full beard, and starts telling this guy about this dream he had. He's in this jail. He's trying to train himself in a way by being among common criminals, and this guy named Ducard picks him up and offers to train him. He eventually gets out and goes and starts training with him, and reveals his past of him and his parents dying and that whole thing with Joe Chill, and later on in the trial when he was younger, him bringing a gun trying to kill Joe Chill, and then someone else doing it, him facing one of the mob bosses who would later confront as Batman. I think his name Falcone, and just stuff like that. Fast forward a little bit, he's done with training, he becomes Batman, but not before meeting up with Commissioner Gordon for the first time with a primitive, very primitive, just him with the ski mask talking to Gordon about how they'll work together. And they work together to stop Ra's al Ghul's plan to basically infect the whole city with fear gas and turn everyone on themselves. The line when after his mansion is destroyed by Ra's al Ghul, when they burn it down to the ground, because it's revealed that Ducard and Ra's al Ghul are the same. It's the guy that he saved earlier, and he says it's payback for burning down his house. So they're at the bottom of the Batcave, Alfred reminds him, he says, "Why do we fall?" He says, "So we can learn to pick ourselves back up." He makes the cure, saves Rachel, does all that, and And this is kind of something like Scarecrow gets tased by Rachel, which I thought was kind of weak, but that's the only weak point I can really think of. I'll get to that later in the cons. It ends with him defeating Ra's al Ghul in a very, very cool way. He doesn't save him from the train crash, but he doesn't exactly kill him either. And Scarecrow, like I said earlier, gets tased, and they're able to, with the help of Commissioner Gordon, they're able to stop it from spreading everywhere, and they're able to contain the situation and save the city. At the very end, there's Commissioner Gordon, like in the first '89 Batman, but much better here, makes a bat signal, and they talk about inflation and show a Joker card, which teases to the next movie. Now, originally, this is just sort of a tangent, but originally, Christopher Nolan wasn't planning on making a sequel. He just sort of did that as an homage. Like, the card is very similar to the one we see in Batman '89, sort of as an homage to that. And he said in interviews and stuff like that he likes to leave his movies and leave people with endings where they're like, oh, I want to kind of see more of that sort of thing. Okay, now I've talked about this wonderful movie. Let me move on to the pros. Okay, the pros. There are many in this movie, but I will try and narrow it down because I don't want this movie to last forever. Staying so true to the comic. I'm not a purist by any stretch, but it's just cool how they're able to, for the fanboys, like I guess me, to put in little references, comic book references, include characters and also scenes from comic books, and sometimes even frame for frame, which is amazing, and make it work and flow with the story. Also, the serious, darker, and even more realistic tone works for me in regards especially to some of the characters. Like, for instance, Ra's al Ghul, while he is not exactly like his comic book counterpart, what Nolan does with him is interesting enough that it doesn't matter to me if he's exactly like the one in the comics, because if you make an interesting villain, I think whether it's very close to the comics or not, people will enjoy it. Also, Scarecrow, I really like him too. I've never been a really big Scarecrow fan, but even though he's much more a secondary villain, I liked him in this movie too. I particularly like a lot of the hallucination scenes, and just seeing Bruce go from point A to point B, like I said. And also that one of the other really good things, you get to actually know Bruce Wayne's parents before the murder. You get to know them as people. They feel like real people to you. It feels like you've got to really know them and see what they're like, so it has more of an emotional impact when they're killed, which I thought was really cool. It's a really cool touch. Seeing Bruce Wayne do these things, see him trying to train himself before he gets trained, like putting himself among criminals, doing stuff like that, basically making himself go all the way down to the bottom so that he can feel that sort of desperation, understand the mind of a criminal, which works. And being trained by Ra's al Ghul and then sort of having a father-son relationship is very interesting. They have that to a certain extent in the comics, but it's not as much, like, it's not as acknowledged as much as it is here. I think that's really interesting what they did with that. Alfred, another character that, while in the Burton and Schumacher movies, he's pretty cool in those ones. He's actually the voice of reason and another father figure to Bruce Wayne. He guides him when he needs help and tries his best to help him, which is like the comics. He tries his best to help out his old friend and also try and guide him in the most difficult times. He is really the voice of reason to Batman, and he calls him on his stuff, which very few people do. I actually like Rachel Dawes in this movie. I didn't like her as much in the second one, but I really like her in this one. I thought she did a really good. I thought the actress did a really good job. I had more interest in the character. Just their whole friendship, it's not a straight up romance, which I'm glad, because usually Batman will have one girl and just stick with one girl, and Batman will have one girl and then have one in the next, and it's just a straight romance. This one, they've known each other forever, so it's deeper than just, oh, I've known you for a few weeks, let's date or something. It's more than that, which I like a lot. Just the whole, I know a lot of people don't like this, and it's not as noticeable in this movie as it is in the later ones, but just the distinction between the two, Batman and Bruce Wayne, just the voice difference, kind of reminds me of the animated series with Kevin Conroy, how he distinguished Batman and Bruce Wayne as two separate people, which I thought was very cool. I can go on and on all day about how cool this movie is, about how good the music, the action, just everything in this movie is amazing. But we'd be here all day, and I still have one more review to do before midnight, so I have to get through this review. Okay, the cons. There's not a lot in this movie, at least not a lot I can think of. Yeah, the only one I can really think of is Rachel tasing the Scarecrow. While he's not that much of a very important villain, he is a pivotal villain that they've been building up, and just see him get tased by Rachel is just it's okay. I mean, it's not like terrible or anything. It certainly doesn't ruin the movie or anything. It's just the only thing I could think of. I was just like, really, we're gonna do that? Okay. Yeah, I could go on all day about how great the Nolan trilogy is so far, and how it's just the serious tone of being true to the comics, and also making deep, complex heroes and villains and characters is amazing, especially since we haven't seen a lot of that, especially in the live action versions. But yeah, it's just amazing. I'm glad that this movie was made. It's so good. I could just talk about it all day. If I were to rate it on my 5-point system, I would give it a 5 out of 5, which means it was excellent. That means it's just great. It's one of my most favorite movies, and right after The Dark Knight, which will be my next review. Okay, I hope you like this. If you're not already subscribed, I hope you subscribe, comment, let me know what kind of Batman stuff you want me to review. I'm open to basically anything. And I hope you enjoyed this review. Next, I'll be doing The Dark Knight. I hope you watch that.